YouTube, what is up? We are back with our NFL 2025 recap, NFL draft. Finally over, probably one of the highest viewed drafts ever with the whole Shedeur Sanders drama that unraveled. We will get into all of that, obviously, by the title, the thumbnail. If you watched the last video, our title was Shedeur will go undrafted. We were talking about in the first round, and we were right. And I believe... Look, I said I definitely don't bet on draft day stuff. That's not what I do. I bet on game stuff where there's actual data. That's what we do on this channel. If you're new here, we hit 63% of our bets last year. So like, subscribe before I disappear into the algorithm and you're stuck with horrific handicappers for next year. But I guess the odds were minus 600 that Shedeur would be drafted in the first round. And I said he wouldn't. I said he sucks. He wouldn't. The NFL GMs agreed with me. So we'll dive more into that throughout this video. What else? The Raiders select Ashton, Jeanty. I talked about that in my last video. I'm not happy with that. I have a Pete Carroll rant I have to get to. Surprisingly, I'm actually very happy with Tomlin and the Steelers in this draft. If you've never seen my videos, I'm very, very critical of Mike Tomlin in almost every video. I call him low IQ Tomlin, but I do think the Steelers had a really nice draft, and I like what I saw from them. Travis Hunter goes to the Jaguars. The Jaguars trade up for Travis Hunter. I got a lot to say about those weirdo fucks over in Jacksonville. And what else? One more thing. Oh, the Seahawks. I actually really like this pick. I will dive into this later. The Seahawks draft Jalen Milroe to be their backup behind Geno Smith. I think that could be a very, very impactful pick that helps them to get some key wins this year. So let's dive into it. All right, so I'm sure a lot of you guys want to hear about Shedeur. We'll get to that in 1 second. First, I got to go on a little Pete Carroll rant here. I'm tired of seeing people, ride this guy's nuts. I get it. They had a nice little run in Seattle with the Super Bowl. Looking back on it, I think I give Dan Quinn more credit for that run than Pete Carroll. Dan Quinn's a bad boy. We saw what he did in Washington in 1 year. We almost won the Super Bowl with Atlanta. Dan Quinn's the man. So here's what drives me crazy about Pete Carroll. I think he's really good at evaluating talent. Obviously, he's got a ton of college experience and knows what to look for. And I think he picks good players. The problem is I think he values things incorrectly. He values positions incorrectly. First thing you do, you get in a new place and you add what, in my opinion, is one of the least valuable positions in the game. Running back. I get it. Ashton Jeanty. He's a freak. Really good. That's awesome, man. Who cares? It doesn't really move the needle. I already said this in my last video. When Saquon Barkley, biggest freak in the world, was on the Giants, couldn't do shit. The Giants O-line was shit. Then he gets moved into an Eagles O-line, and then we see what he is. But the Eagles running backs before Saquon were performing well too. My point, again, is cause and effect. The O-line is the cause. The running back production is the effect. It's not the other way around. And I have to say it. This guy Pete Carroll's a hack. I'm tired of hearing about him. I saw it in Seattle plenty. I'm a Rams fan, so I saw plenty Seattle games. And the Seattle was always weak on O-line and D-line. That was their weakness. If any Seattle fans are watching this, I'm not hating, and I'm telling the truth. They would get gashed on their D-line. Their D-line was so bad. Their O-line was horrible. The only reason they had a prayer was because they had a mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson who was able to just scramble in his prime and do really unprecedented things and make some sort of offense happen behind an atrocious O-line. What I've noticed with Pete Carroll is he loves his skill players. He loves his flashy receivers. He loves his running backs. And the one I do agree with him is he typically loves his corners. I'm a big corner guy too. But I don't agree with the way he's building this. You look at a guy like Harbaugh. I have a lot of respect for Jim Harbaugh. I think he's doing a great job. He drafted a running back this year. I don't really agree with that, but my point is he didn't start with drafting a running back. His first year, he drafted Joe Alt. He set a foundation for that O-line in, where the Chargers play now? LA. I believe the Chargers have 4 first-rounders on their O-line now. So their O-line is stacked. Now that they have that, you have a little bit more leash if you want to draft a running back. Now they have something to run behind. But Pete Carroll's just like, oh, fuck it. We'll just throw a running back right into the fire of O-line. That good luck. I don't see Ashton Jeanty just magically having a ton of success without a solidified O-line. I get it, Will Campbell wasn't there, which is the draft pick I wanted them to take. But still, in that situation, if there's not a guy you love there, in my opinion, at O-line or corner, you trade down, accumulate picks, and draft a guy maybe later that round that is O-line or corner that is more in line with where he was expected to go. That way you can get some value for your, accumulating whatever pick you did. But yeah, I just think they went and targeted the wrong position. It looks like the same movie again with Pete Carroll. Draft receivers, draft running backs, ignore the O-line, ignore the D-line. We've all seen this story. They'll go 8-9, 9-8. Who cares? Mediocrity is what Pete Carroll has been really good at in his later years. All right, so let's get into this. Shedeur Sanders to the Browns. If there was an I told you so moment, I think I could stamp it, 10 times here. I've been, screaming from the rooftops how bad this guy is. And, I would have no interest in drafting him. If he was in the 7th round, I wouldn't draft him. If he's a free agent, I don't want Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't do anything for me if I'm the GM of an NFL team. I already said it in the last video. So many of those sacks were his fault. Holds on the ball way too long. Selfishly doesn't throw the ball away to preserve his completion percentage. A lot of those stats were just smoke and mirrors. And if you actually watch the games, you're like, oh, this dude's padding his stats by taking all these sacks. And those sacks are making it seem like the O-line is the problem when he's really the problem. He should be getting rid of the ball, and his stats wouldn't look as nice and neat with the completion percentage and all this stuff. It's really just him padding his stats. He's not that good. He's not a freak athlete. His size isn't amazing. If he has a clean pocket, he could make some decent plays. I'm not going to knock him on everything, but I don't think he doesn't move the needle enough for me to want to take him. And then, it just is what it is. We see how much attention he gets. Do you really want that level of distraction with a guy that you don't think's that good? I always go back to think of Joe Burrow coming out of college. That's the most obvious number one, can't go wrong pick ever. If he had the level of drama with Shedeur, in Shedeur, I'm not just saying the way he carries himself. It's really the social media. It's nonstop social media stuff. His daddy, it just brings a ton of attention. I get it. Joe Burrow smokes cigars. People are going to say he's cocky like Shedeur. Sure, whatever. I don't think to the same extent, but if you want to go with that argument, I'll give it to you. But Joe Burrow isn't, streaming on Twitch. He's not always putting stuff out there for social media. It's just strictly business. And even if he did all that stuff that Shedeur does, and let's say he had a daddy as famous as Deion Sanders, at least with Joe Burrow, I can justify the risk of having all that attention because he's so good. With Shedeur Sanders, it's what's the upside here? I don't see it. Maybe this ages horribly. He's the best quarterback ever. I don't think it'll happen, but again, who cares? So if I'm a GM, that's how I'd be thinking. And I think this draft has proven that what people will call me a hater for or crazy for, these GMs agreed with me. He didn't get taken until the 5th round. That's not a draft. That's not a round you get selected in to be a starter. So it turns out all these talking heads, Mel Kiper, doofus fucks of the world, they just are putting narratives out there, pre-draft, post-draft, whatever. These guys aren't actual GMs that are watching film on it. They're just talking heads that are fucking idiots. And the guys that actually get paid to make these decisions and not just talk about it for a network that doesn't hire experts, they just hire people that they find somewhat entertaining, I guess, to keep retention and viewership. These people don't know what they're talking about. So the real GMs have spoken, and they agreed with what I've been saying all along. And now if you're the Browns, you got 5 non-starter quarterbacks in your room. You got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. I don't know if he's healthy. So who knows there. Now they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, Shedeur Sanders 5th round. So they got 2 rookies. What are we going to do? We're just going to juggle 5 question mark quarterbacks? I think the question marks are the rookies. I don't know. I don't love Dylan Gabriel either. I think he's might be too small. But who knows? I'm going to say never. He only lost 1 game last year, so least he has somewhat of a track record there. But I'd be surprised if any of these quarterbacks are anything special. So we'll see what they do there. Like always, Browns have a really good roster. They're just weak at that quarterback position. If they had that dialed in, they do have a roster around them where you think they could make a real run at winning some meaningful games in the postseason. But yeah, it should be interesting to just see how all this plays out. Who's going to be the starter, man? I don't know. I don't even know who you put as the front runner. I would say maybe Kenny Pickett. And, I mean, good God, you can't feel good about that. So who knows? It'll be weird. I'm sure whoever these quarterbacks are probably won't play that well because they're not that good. And then the narrative you're going to hear very loudly is give Shedeur a chance, play Shedeur, yada, yada, yada. So that'll be, it'll be entertaining. At least we have something to talk about. It'll be entertaining to watch how that plays out. But yeah. All right. Anyways, enough on Shedeur Sanders. Let me move on to his teammate, Travis Hunter, who the Jags traded up for to get. Boy, these GMs are horrific. So look, when I make my lines and everything, and that's why we do so good on this channel, is because I do everything very analytically. I look at the numbers, and I'm able to find edges that other people aren't able to find. And once you get good at that, you realize what real analytics are and fake analytics are. For example, I know what actual metrics to look at that move the needle and give me an edge, okay? There will be other guys that are looking at metrics that aren't as important, but think they are, and they'll say they're analytical guys too. That's the difference. I try my best not to reveal my edge because that's my edge. You don't, if you're playing poker and you have an edge, like, you don't want to tell everybody what that is. Doesn't matter what the game is. So I see these guys that think they're smart, these new up-and-comers. They probably played Madden against the computer and traded on easy mode or whatever and think they're doing something special. But that's actually the wrong way to think about this. Like, you should not be trading up. I really don't like the idea of trading up at all unless you have accumulated a ton of picks in your pocket that you can afford to lose some of those to grab a sniper at quarterback or something big. But to do all this trading up to get like a non-quarterback, I get it. Travis Hunter plays two directions. We'll see how that works out. I think he's got a lot of talent. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's not a quarterback. And when you're drafting up, not to, it might be okay in the short term, but let's say he gets hurt and something doesn't work out and, whatever, 2-3 years from now, you look at those picks that they could have had, you want to be accumulating picks. Belichick did it for years. Smart people accumulate picks, not just because you think, oh man, I'm going to get some stud in the 5th round in 2 years or whatever. No, these extra picks you accumulate end up giving you leverage to turn picks you didn't have before, or you turn these draft picks you didn't have before into better ones. That's when you trade up. You can stack some, a bunch of crappy picks, and then you can accumulate better picks. You might trade down, you get a 4th and a 5th and a this and a that, and before you know it, over time, you're starting to accumulate seconds and thirds and maybe even firsts here and there that you didn't have because you have all this leverage of all these draft picks that you accumulated. You're able to package them together to get like the big dog picks that matters in the 1st and 2nd round. So I think by giving away his draft picks, he's losing leverage in the future to accumulate more talent. I don't think he realizes it. I think he's just new in the game, thinks he knows it all, this young guy, whoever he is. And have you heard this guy's speeches? They're very weird. I would never want to play for this guy. His team's got to have like 10 separate group chats away from this guy saying, yo, we're really playing for this weirdo fuck that's like getting asked basic questions in a press conference and it's going on these like culty little rants. Like, it's very weird. Like, he just doesn't seem like a normal guy. He seems like a guy that hasn't done anything that's like telling you his weird philosophy on life and you have to drink his water. Like, it's a weird vibe for me. It's not Dan Campbell who actually played football, like giving you a hard-nosed talk, or Vrabel. It's just weird vibes. It's like Mike McDaniels on steroids. I don't know. I have a lot of skepticism about how Jacksonville's going to execute. I feel like they don't know. I just feel like there's probably a lot that they don't know what they're doing based just even seeing these little clips and how they drafted. All right, 2 more things and then we're going to get out of here. I want to give credit to somebody that I never give credit to. The Steelers organization, Mike Tomlin, GM, whoever, the whole Steelers. I think they actually did a really good job this draft. They drafted a stud D tackle out of Oregon. I like that pick. And what I really like and was surprised by, because I thought Tomlin was maybe going to draft Shedeur. Maybe he'd be the one to bail him out since, it seemed like they had good meetings. And they actually drafted the guy that I like that, again, I'll admit it, maybe I'm a sucker, but I really liked him on Gruden's camp, Will Howard. And if you've watched the college football playoff, he did make some big-time plays, more mobile than you would think. I know they didn't draft him to be a starter if they drafted him in, I believe it was the 6th round. But I still like the guy. I think he should have been drafted earlier than 6th round. I think there's a chance he turns into a stud. So I'd like to see what that looks like. He seems like a great character kid. Again, just watch him on Gruden. He just seems like he's very mature and has a lot of it factor. Like, for example, I watched Jackson Dart on Gruden. I got way more immature vibes. Like, I don't trust Jackson Dart. I'm just talking character perspective. Like, it gave me immature vibes. It didn't really give me professional vibes. Will Howard gave me, like, he's going to dedicate his life to making this work. That was just the vibe I got. So I love that pick. I also love them drafting his teammate, Sawyer, in the 4th round, beast edge. Look, I'm not watching film on these guys all day. Unless I'm getting paid to. But from what I seen, I thought Sawyer was an absolute impact player in the college football playoff. I was surprised that he was still around in the 4th round. I thought, he seemed like an absolute beast in the playoffs. So maybe there's a reason for that, but from the eye test, I thought he was awesome. So I love that pick. And yeah, good job, Steelers, Mike Tomlin. I'm sure I'll criticize you guys again when you punted on 4th and inches, down 14 against Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. But until then, good job. And lastly, the Seahawks. I just want to mention this pick. I actually really like the Seahawks coach. I thought he did an unbelievable job in Baltimore for their defense. That was their year. They should have won it all. Had the ability to, at least. Their defense was so good under him, and I think he's a good guy to have, obviously, for his defensive scheme. But I have a feeling he's going to make good decisions there in Seattle. Getting rid of bigger contracts like a receiver like Metcalf, getting Sam Darnold in there, and saving money there. Like, these are smart moves. It's the moves that make casual fans mad because you're getting rid of names and they get mad at that and they think it's bad. They think it's dumb, but it's not. It's very, very smart, and you want to spend at different positions. More important than receiver, in my opinion. So, anyways, I really like the Jalen Milroe pick here because I think this guy totally changes the dynamic of how you're able to execute on short yardage situations. There's so many things you can do now. You can have, obviously, Sam Darnold as your every down quarterback, but, you get into those 3rd and 4 and unders. I think you put Jalen Milroe in there, and you have packages for him. You have QB blast, you have QB powers, breed options, play action packages. Because, look, it's not like Jalen Milroe is incapable of throwing the ball. You can mix in throws, too. Where Jalen Milroe scares me is if it's 2nd and 13, it's 3rd and 15, it's downs where you need to pass, and the defense is not really terrified of the run because of the down and distance situation, and they have a complicated scheme that you have to read through multiple things. That's where you don't really want Milroe. You don't really trust his brain in those scenarios. But if you have him in these 3rd and 4s and a primarily run look, the defense is either gonna let's say they're too high, the box is light. Then you can pound them with Jalen Milroe, get it to a 4th and 1 or pick up a 1st down, and then you could get tush pushes with him as well. You gotta adapt to what everyone who's elite in the league is doing, so you can incorporate that in as well. And then also, if they're gonna cram the box, it's only a 3rd and 4. These are the kind of situations you're putting him into. Then it's gonna make his life so much easier to make a read off the defense. It's gonna make it much easier to be like, oh, this is obviously man or zone. And you have your 1 or 2 reads that you're just looking for one guy to do one thing, and your life becomes so much simpler as a quarterback. So I do believe he's going to be capable of doing that if coached properly. So I do think that is a key move for them. So that's it, guys. NFL draft recap. I'll see you whenever. Have a good one, boys. Peace.